Edison was not the only Man City player to leave towards the end of the transfer window. Ilkay Gundogan has now completed a move to Galatasaray, while Manuel Akanji has joined Inter Milan on an initial loan deal which could be made permanent if certain conditions are met. So, Stephen, what do you make of these two transfers with Gundogan and Akanji, and how do you think those two players should be remembered at Man City?
Kanji, pound for pound, one of the best signings of Guardiola's reign, probably in the club's history, actually, when you think about it. 14, 15 million pounds, something like that. A random signing out the blue, a guy who was, having contract issues at Dortmund. No one really saw him as an elite level player, just in that tier slightly below of good, not great. And it was an inspired signing, a truly inspired one. He was absolutely pivotal, actually, in that run to the treble in the end. He was smart, he was intelligent, fast, sharp, and he had the season of his life that will ultimately define his time at Manchester City. He so good that eventually he pushed, Kyle Walker out the side for the starting lineup in the final, and he was excellent. A couple of mistakes here and there, but yeah, brilliant. And then a good season at the one after. Last season he lost a bit of form with injuries, but for 14 million quid, what we got out for him, he was a 50, 60 million level pound player in his first season at Manchester City. And that's not exaggeration. Yeah, versatile. Played at left back, played at right back, centre back, played as holding midfielder. Kanji, yeah, a brilliant servant. And it's the right time for him to move on, though. That's the thing. Kusno clearly is the future in terms of a fast, pacey centre back. And I'm relaxed with it. I feel it's a shame to see him go, and he might have been useful at times this season, maybe even as a right back. But Inter Milan is a massive move. It's a huge club. He'll enjoy Syria, and it might be that we get most of our money back if they, reach certain obligations and so on. And yeah, a great player. As for Gundogan, it feels tough to sort of reasonably force him out. We politely did it in terms of keeping him on, not in the squad for one game and then on the bench for another. But Gundogan, it is time to move on. He's not the future of this club. An absolute legend for Manchester City, but his return didn't go quite as smoothly as expected. He did pick up form towards the end of last season. But we have to focus on Tijana Reinders, Nico Riley, and Nico Gonzalez instead now. We have to because Gundogan is getting older, and the physical issues that City have got these days, they're not going to be solved by Ilkay Gundogan. And this is a good move for him. I think he's a boyhood Gala fan actually. So Galatasaray, over there, a beautiful villa somewhere in Istanbul, and playing for his boyhood club is a wonderful way for him to wind down his career. So it's the right call. It does concern me with the churn of all these players, and you talk about legends leaving, and this summer, treble winners, Kyle Walker, De Bruyne, Grealish, Edison, Akanji, Gundogan. Just it's probably someone else I've forgotten about. I don't even know, but there's so many players of stature leaving Manchester City, but it's a necessary evil, because I think we're lying in the bed that we made. Too many players reached the peak at the same time, and we took too long to replace them, and now. Hugo Viana has found them new homes, and I think it's the right time for it. And they go with a lot of love and a lot of respect and appreciation.
Yeah, exactly so. And if you were to sort of summarize Man City's transfer window overall, I think seven new signings and a lot of players have left the club. Do you think that is a successful window for Man City overall?
I did a video last night on my YouTube channel, and I gave it about 7 out of 10. And I think there are some when you look at the issues that we had going into the window. It was a goalkeeper issue because it was very obvious Edison wanted out. He has for a long time. Ortega wasn't sure of his future. There was a fullback issue, right back, left back. I think centre back was fine, really. I would argue. Midfield with Gundogan and De Bruyne and getting older, Bernardo and everyone. There was midfield issues, and you could argue maybe a wide player. We've ticked the boxes on most of them. Goalkeepers clearly have. Donnarumma and Trafford is, if Ortega and Edison have gone, Ortega sort of in hinterland actually, but either way, they're more than good enough as replacements. Eight Nori's a really good signing at left back. We didn't sign a right back, which is a negative there. I think we might go back though in January actually because we've actually freed up a squad place now for a non-homegrown player for January if we want to. So there might be something in the waters there for January. Reinders and Shirky, good midfield signings there. Nico Gonzalez, of course, signed, and likewise Kusanov and Marmoush in January. So there was already some squad gaps filled there, and of course as well. Uh, we signed a couple of good young players too. So I see this as a 7 out of 10 signing window. It's very hard to judge because you need hindsight and time to judge a transfer window. It can never be a 10 out of 10 because we didn't tick every single box, and it was maybe weren't necessarily the superstars there, a lot of them potential. But when I look at maybe the low barometer where this, and Donnarumma of course in Trafford, yeah. But when I look at the low level where this could go and the high level is like the lowest this could be in terms of these players: Donnarumma, Trafford, Eight Nori, Shirky, Reinders and Nipan as well, who I'm very excited about on loan at Middlesbrough. The lowest it could be is a 5 out of 10 because at least half of those players are going to hit. The highest level it could be is probably like a 9. Like it could be most of these players could land, and so I'm going to settle somewhere around for 7 right now, and we'll see in future where we'll go. If all these players land, we'll look back and go that was an 8.5, 9 out of 10 window. It can't be a 10 because you didn't get the right back. But yeah, I think it's been a really difficult job for Hugo Viana as a new director of football to move that many players on. And I think he had his hands tied as well because it's very obvious some players didn't want to go until quite late. You Gundogan, the Akanji, and people like that, and Edison. You can't really make plans if they don't move on because you just can't sign players if some players aren't moving on. So it was very difficult for Viana because he's been asked to do an impossible job of change half the squad inside a year. And sign players and sell players you don't want to go. Like I think in an ideal world, he might have moved on like Stones or Ake. They don't want to go. Bernardo, look, he's staying, but I, I respect they're looking past him for the future already as well. And Kovacic and people like that. But you have to be realistic. And I think Viana's done a good job in very difficult circumstances.